You see there, we already got the end cut off. So right at that point, right there is where I'm going to start the measurement, 44.5 short, okay? The saw is set up that way. When I cut the next piece, it's going to be going up at the same angle. Can't do anything about my saw. I'm going to take that saw and I'm going to adjust that to 22.5. Okay, so on this saw, I got to loosen this up here. And I've got to slide this back to 22.5. And it's going to be kind of tricky to see that. Looks like about there, but I'm going to tighten it and then see if I have to move it a little bit. So I'm at 23. I've got to adjust this just here. I wish this one had a click. Some of the newer ones has a click right at 22.5 and at 45 and at 0. Okay, this one doesn't. If I get it close enough, that's all I'm worried about. Okay, so I'm at 22.5. That looks good. Okay, so now I can cinch that down. Now this blade is right at 22.5, half of a 45-degree angle. That's set up. Now let's get back to our base and mark this. For the sake of argument, we're going to show it at 44.5 instead of 44 and a short half, just in case the 22.5-degree angle is slightly off. I could always shave this off ever so little, okay? I get my tape on there. I pull it way out further than what I need, and then I lock the tape. Okay, I got the tape way out there. I've locked it down. Now I'm going to set this exactly where I want it. The tip, slide it back and hold it right there on the inside. Okay? So far so good? Right there. Now if you want, so what some people do is burn an inch. Then you got to remember that. You can hold it at an inch, like that. You don't have to worry about this moving around. It's fatter at the end and all that. Then you've got to make sure to read 45.5 instead of 44.5 because you're burning an inch. You follow? If that's easier for you, you just have to remember all that. So let's leave it right there at an inch. We're going to go down here to 45.5, okay? Don't get confused now. Follow me here now, okay? We're at 45.5. It's right here, 45.5, but we got to come out at a 22.5 degree. Now I know this baseboard is a 1/2 inch thick, remember? So if I cut over at a 45, I would be at, instead of 45.5, I would be at 46. I would mark it right there. When I cut that on the saw, I'd cut it right off at 46, and that would be my point, right? But I need to be half that, because half of 45 is 22.5. So, because this material is a 1/2 inch thick, I'm going to go over a 1/4 inch, because that's 22.5 when I cut it at the angle, okay? If I got 45.5 and I mark it at 45 3/4, because my saw is set up at the angle, it'll be cut down at an angle from that point on down to my 45.5, because the inside, the back side is where I measured right up against the wall. Does that make sense? You got the back of the baseboard and the top of the baseboard. You angle those two down, and the top should be sticking over a 1/4 inch further for cutting it out of 22.5 degrees. Okay, because I burned the inch. If I pull that back, If I hold that end at the tip, I should be at 44.5, and see, I might slightly be off one way or another there, less than a 16th, should. See there? I'd be 44.5 plus a 1/4 inch is the outside corner of that 22.5 degrees corner. Okay? Now because I got that mark right there, I can take my square now and I can put a line right there. Okay? That way I can see it a little bit easier because I had that mark there. I didn't have it up in the middle. I could have held my tape measure up higher and put a mark there. If you don't have a square, you don't really need the square if you didn't have it. You didn't have this square, but this is always nice to have when you're doing baseboard. So every once in a while I'll get that out and use that, okay? Now we'll go back up to the saw. I hope this is starting to make sense. Now I can get this back up in there. See, I can slide that over where I need it. See, when I pull this down, that's the outside edge cutting at a 22.5 degree, and I'm going to be right where I need it on the other side. Provided I hold this exactly where I need to be. Now to do my first cut, I might want to be off the line a little bit, but to the left side of the line, and then I can pull the base over and line it right up. Because sometimes you might think, oh, I'll just line that up exactly where I want it and chop it off. You might be slightly off, and if you are slightly off, now you got to trim it off. So first hit, just make a little indentation to see if you need to slide the base one way or another. Let's see, I know I need to slide it over just a little bit. Okay, I've got this lined up right there. Try it again. Perfect. See that? It's my outside corner. It goes back at a 22.5 degree. Here's my other corner. Fits in there at 45. I measured from there, so I know that's going to fit. That's why I didn't have to measure from the back side. I didn't have to get my tape measure back there because I knew the saw is going to cut this. So just depends where you're measuring on how you're going to do your job. Okay? There's the piece. Let's see if it lines up where we thought it was going to. Hey, if I can do this, you can do this.